I'm sorry.
You're fine, because you're talking about writing things, you're talking about character development, and there is such a thing as good and bad choices.
I hate what they did to Catherine Howard, though.
When you're writing a character, when you're expanding on a character or doing a translation of a character who actually existed or from history, and you're doing your own version or throwing your own spin on it, there is a right and wrong way to do it. Your goal should always be to honor the integrity of whoever you're writing about. The only exceptions are like when you're writing a farce and you're wanting to make fun of that person. Go all out, go there.
Right.
Because then you do pick their worst traits and their most negative traits and you blow them up even bigger.
Or take the rumors.
Because it's you're making fun of.
Right.
Then it's absolutely. But Six's purpose is not to make fun of or to paint these women as bad or poor people in terms of behaviors and whatever. The goal is it's supposed to be about empowering and female empowerment and shining light on these 6 amazing women and things that they did that were good and how they were mistreated and blah,
right.
blah, blah, blah. But
and then they just give us paper thin dolls.
They do. They gave you paper dolls.
Paper dolls.
Of those 6. It's 6 paper dolls is what it is. They each have one color to them as far as their personalities, and it stays through the whole concert. It never changes. There's no growth from any of them. There's no deeper sides to any of them. There's no deeper meaning that's revealed. There's no end message that's given to the audience other than stick it to the man because he treated us poorly, blah, 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 blah. But where's the empowerment in what the women actually did?
Right.
And who they actually were?
Right.
The empowerment of the show purely comes from them
Fan service?
hating on the king.
Yeah.
That's the empowerment.
But that's not empowerment, that's just letting it get to you.
Yes, it's giving him power over you.
Right.
It's saying, here's how to take back power, women. Hate the people who hurt you. Speak up against them. Speak out against them. Put them in the dirt where they belong.
What they should have done with Jane was her turning point because it was still within a little early in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And being like, wait, why do you love him? Why he just did this? That would have been a more forgiving, graceful transition. And then, actually, that would have been a great point because then after her, it's Anne of Cleves, and then you could focus on her and how, just it wasn't all men, and then it was men, and it was culture. It was a perfect transition. If you would have gone out of England, you would have had him been able to step back.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought they were doing when I heard there was a German song. I was like, and then I heard that, I'm like, never mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hate Catherine Howard because it was weird to see how she was so educated in history, and I'm just like, that would have been Anne Boleyn.
Yeah.
Oh, what the hell did this? That's interesting, but what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I hated how people were like, oh, she was sexualized, she was abused. I'm like, welcome to history. Anyway, so I just don't like it because she sang that song, which I appreciate the fact that it finally aligns on that part, but I hate it because how it's still in a way downplayed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, fuck you. I'm not now.
No, yeah.
Just like, why did you finally get to the meat or edge on meat, and then you just trail back? I'm like, what the? You're already halfway across this show.
Yeah. Because sadly, the show ends up in a backwards way, putting all of the attention on him.
Right.
So the attention isn't actually given to the girls and their power. All of the attention is him and what he did and what he did to them and how horrible he was to them and blah, blah, blah. You're giving attention to the person who doesn't deserve the attention.
Right.
Instead, it should be, yes, mention in each of their stories, obviously, their mistreatment. Duh, it's part of the whole idea that these, 5 out of these 6 women were killed. You know, that's a huge thing to touch on. But how about use this platform to have each of these women talk about, here would have been a show that I would pay the money to go to New York and see on a stage, just to see the show and then fly back. If the whole purpose had been, you know, like I said before, the idea of, you know, put these women all in purgatory together, or hell, or heaven, whatever, doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Put them someplace in the afterlife and they all meet up. And they're talking about what they would have done if they had not been killed.
Oh, yeah. Or they did walk away.
What would they have wanted to, what legacy would they have wanted to leave? The legacy of 6. What would your legacy as queen have been? What would you have tried to change? Or what would you have changed if you had been given power instead of power stripped away from you? You get to turn all this amazing actual empowerment onto these women
and see what they could have done.
Writers should have gotten into the heads of these 6 women and gone, okay, based off of what we know about them, what would they have done with power? What would they have done with authority and influence? What could they have changed in the king? What could they have changed for, you know, this or that or whatever? And then you bring it all home at the end of the show with the realization of none of those things got to happen because a man who abused power took the opportunity away from these women. So then it becomes a challenge to people in the audience. Don't take away power from someone, because you never know the change in the world that person could cause. Women, step up. Don't let someone take the power away from you.
And men
because
don't
you
be
could change. And men don't be intimidated. Men don't be blah, blah, blah. Join in instead of women just stomp the men out, because that's what men do to women. Do you really want to?
How are you any better than?
That's not equality.
No.
That's all you want is a 180 flip of the script. So then it's going to be the same thing, just on the opposite side. Oh, but you're okay with that because you're the one who's oppressed now. Get over it.
Right.
If you actually want change, then change it and change it the correct way so that no one is oppressed eventually. Let's equal up.
I still can't believe no one's figured this out yet. I don't understand.
But that version of 6, I would watch.
Oh, yeah.
I would watch.
Love it.
It gives a setting, it gives context. You could dive into scenes. It could still just be done with those 6 women, because they would all be sitting around listening to each other's stories about that, what they would have done. Without justification for the costume choices, absolutely, you're like, where did this choice come from?
Right.
Literally, they just turned these 6 women into pop divas for no reason. There's no actual
given reason.
Yeah, why? If you're gonna call it a musical, there has to be reason to the choices made within the show. Again, reason why I call it a pop concert. Simple changes to that show would have turned it into what I would call a truly impactful, leave behind a legacy type show. If you want to leave behind a legacy of empowering every woman who walks in, every man who walks in to that show, there were some missed steps. Definitely some missed steps. Yep. So that's my issue, which is why I don't like the show.
Right. I'm not kidding. I just want to see a parody of some sort made with him decked out in Elton John wear and suits and jeweled version of his costume. I'm not gonna lie. I just want to see that. I want to see what it looks like. Because we put that with 6. I'm just like, what do you want to do? I would call Colin Firth.
Oh.
I would say, hey, you want to be a diva? But he'll say yes. So come on.
He would be fun.
He'd be fun.
He would be fun.